In the beginning, there was a Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It is written that before time and our definition of space, there was a void. The best way that we can personify this void in our experience is by water. And in the midst of this void, it is written that God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. In the time after, there was a forming of land separated the waters, of which we call earth. And because we share all of the same elements, we too call ourselves earth. Greetings. And welcome to yet another step forward in the advancement of our tradition of building ourselves within the fiery furnace. Through affliction, developing the self, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and taking that into the experience that we provide to you today of positive energy being manifest before you all. This is the build. I am triumphant, and I am accompanied by Brother Eli. I will soon bring Brother Eli on so that he may begin with our opening announcements, and then we will discuss further into another element. For the last 2 weeks, we have spoke of water. Today, we will dig into air, but not before Eli brings to us all of our disclosures and opening announcements. Blessings.
Blessings, Brother Mike. I hope and pray your neck of the woods is perfect. As I remember last time, I think it was raining. Blessings, everybody. Of course, you know we have our introduction. The words we are expressing freely are not meant to offend anyone. Our words are not meant to be in any competition with anyone else's wisdom. Your wisdom and understanding is yours alone. We are choosing to remain consecrated while being in the furnace of affliction, the burning bush. Another attribute to our introduction is conquering ignorance is essential. Nobody is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop the qualities needed to be able to speak and achieve mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. We are trying our best to portray ourselves to have a vigilant heart and a plain tongue, capable of satisfying God because our entire existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. Now, I'm just going to cut it short there because we have a very extensive amount of information to share. And I hope and pray the words that we express will not offend or harm anyone else's being. Blessings.
Blessings. I will open with a few numbers and then an expression of said numbers as to their significance in this discussion. 1, 17,000, 64,000, 270 million. Now, the meaning of that. I, one person, within one day, will do this act 17,000 times in the midst of the 64,000 seconds in a day of waking time. With 270 million cells working on this one action, what is the action? Breathing. There is no activity more essential to all life than the process of inspiration and aspiration of air. The travel that goes through our bodies of how oxygen from any and all things transfers throughout is truly a work of scientific phenomenon that is equating to miracle, a miraculous and gracious endeavor of which most people have been guilty in one time or another in their life to take for granted. I am going
Michael, I think you paused. As you know, we will have technical difficulties. And I think we're working with the system. Let me see if I am on, because I don't know if I can stay on without Brother Michael being on. Let me go to, and let's see. Um, it still says live. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope everyone is doing well. We are, let me see. Let me just send that. Um, I think last time we had, well, he had weather problems. So I don't know if it's me or not. So thank you, everybody. Right now, it's been 11 minutes, and I will try something else to see if it's me or if it's Brother Michael. I think I heard something. Let me send a text. So I don't think it would be fair if I just sit here. Well, I have some information about air as well. This time we are going a little out of order. So let me call. Still no response.
I am here.
Okay.
We have had experienced some technical difficulties.
That's right. We are working it out. Continue, Brother Mike. I have clouds over my head as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, in layman's terms, what was being expressed simply is this: where every single time that we take in water, every time we breathe, the process is the same. It goes all the way down into the root of our being. And only then does it transport truly into air through our blood cells as transports of the molecules. It does this at an alarming rate with every single breath taken in, every swallow of water, every ingestion of food. Two parts of that is the breaking down of proteins, which is adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which actually fuels our muscles to work.
Brother Michael, I think
Yes.
you may have to back up a little more because we missed quite a bit. I think 5 or 6 minutes worth of information.
Oh my.
Yes.
Okay.
Literally almost from the beginning. That's when you cut out. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I am appreciative of the patience that has been established here. I will go into the notes again. The transport of oxygen is fundamental to aerobic respiration. Oxygen transport within the human body occurs through both convection and diffusion. Within the pulmonary capillaries, one hemoglobin molecule binds up to four oxygen molecules in a cooperative manner. Global oxygen delivery or oxygen dispatch describes the total amount of oxygen delivered to the tissues each minute and is a product of the cardiac output of arterial oxygen content. Oxygen diffuses from both the alveoli into the pulmonary capillaries and the systemic capillaries into the tissues according to fixed laws of diffusion and the random walk of the diffusion particles. Oxygen is vital for life-sustaining aerobic respiration in humans and is arguably the most commonly administered drug in anesthesia and critical care medicine. Within the mitochondrial inner membrane, oxygen acts as a terminal electron acceptor at the end of the electron transport chain, whereby oxidative results in the synthesis of adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the coenzyme that supplies energy to all active metabolic processes. The breakdown in layman's terms: when we breathe, when we take in water, it transports all the way down to our belly. And then, only then, does it disperse evenly into 270 million pieces of transport to our blood cells, which then transports that to the tissue and to each of our organs and all of the functional systems within our bodies. And it does that every time you breathe, every time you ingest food, every time you take in water. That is an immense amount of mathematically sound processes that has not been given its credit and due. In my humble opinion, it is something that we need to pay more attention to, much more often, because this happens without us even thinking about it. We breathe as shallow breathers. We do not have to count. Something counts it for us. We do not have to articulate where our air goes. It does it on its own. Regardless of the air being polluted or not, the water polluted or not, it does this on its own, with the full intention of it dispersing throughout the entire body every time you do this act, 17,000 times a day. Here is where the build will go into something more metaphysical than just scientific. I want you to think for a brief moment the last time you thought about breathing. I am speaking about types of meditation when you are guided through, or times when you were not able to breathe. I want you to also contemplate for a moment what happens when that process is not allowed to continue and we take our final breath. The concept of breathing in and out, the inspiration and the aspiration of oxygen, is even done not just with our regular breath, but also when we speak. This works as a magnifier of said energy throughout our entire body. So then, let us take into account something as simple as our dialect and profanity and profane behavior in converse with each other. When we are here within the build, we make it a strong, hard point to articulate our language adequately and objectively to the findings that we have here. However, in other venues of our human experience, we use other dialects depending upon our environment, depending upon the intellect of whether or not it can be accepted as message. This comes in the forms of language, slang, and even profanity and cursing. So imagine this: your voice with 270 million microphones uttering a single word, and the microphones receptors, the amps, are amplified into you. That is how powerful our word is. Sound, decibels, are a frequency that can alter the state of our very molecular system, our water, our electromagnetic system. And we do this with every word that we speak. Even when we flub our words, when we say things incorrectly, there is an immediate reaction that happens into our bodies based upon how our air works. One more contemplation, because I know that Eli has much to share here. How many times today have you uttered profane language? How many times today have you told someone that you loved them? How many times today did you actually take in a breath, count to 10, and then allow the breath out as a means to calm yourself? The idea that is mindfulness, it is the opposite of autopilot. In order to count the blessings of which we would run out of numbers, we have to practice mindfulness. I implore those who are in attendance today to challenge themselves to one day, one 24-hour period of said mindfulness, and let the 25th hour render a result of you paying that much more attention to the power of the air you breathe in to yourself and out to other people, in other places, amongst other things. Eli, do you care to add?
Thank you, brother. I just have little information that I would like to read when it comes to concerning air. Actually, this one is from, let me see, I hope okay, from lentech.com. What does air consist of? It's 78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, 1% of noble gases, 0.3% of carbon dioxide, and 0.97% of water vapors. It says the amount of water in the air greatly varies. When large amounts of water are presented in the air, other elements are presented in lower amounts. I'm not necessarily going to continue because we spoke about water, but the subject is about air. Now, this other aspect of air, as Brother Michael spoke about, he spoke about the respiratory system. This is from Cleveland Clinic. Your respiratory system is the network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. This system helps your body absorb oxygen from the air so your organs can work. It also cleanses waste gases such as carbon dioxide from your blood. Now, it says, what is the respiratory system? The respiratory system is a network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. It includes your airwaves, lungs, blood vessels. The muscles that power your lungs are also part of the respiratory system. These parts work together to move oxygen throughout the body and clean out waste gases like carbon dioxide. The respiratory system has many functions. Besides helping you inhale, breathe in, and exhale, breathe out, it allows you to talk and smell, warms air to match your body temperature, and moisturizes it to the humidity level your body needs. Delivers oxygen to the cells in your body. Remove waste gases, including carbon dioxide, from the body when you exhale. Protects your airwaves from harmful substances and irritants. The respiratory system has many different parts that work together to help you breathe. Each group of parts have many separate components. Your airwaves deliver air to your lungs. Your airwaves are a complicated system that includes mouth and nose, sinuses, your throat, and the trachea, and bronchial tubes, and the lungs. So, as we can tell, that air and life itself, when we're talking about humans specifically, is very important. I discovered something else while I was doing a little research when it comes to air. This right here is dealing with the combination of air and the ocean. Now, this right here is from UC San Diego. Scripts, I can't see the smaller print, by oceanographers or oceanography. UC San Diego researchers have demonstrated that the ocean acts as a air filter at nighttime, absorbing pollutants that mingles with the sea surface after the sun goes down. Nitrogen oxide are amounts that pollutes created by burning a fossil fuel. And it goes into Scripps Institute of Oceanography, talking about the graduates, etc., etc. I'm not going to say their names. It says, followed the path of nitrogen oxide from the smoggy skies over Los Angeles to the surface of the ocean off San Diego, where that air pollution often drifts. They determined that the ocean is what scientists call a sink for these chemicals that react with sunlight. Removing about 15% of these compounds from the atmosphere, what doesn't get absorbed stays in the atmosphere. When the sun shines again and the photochemicals break down, they are available to mix with other chemicals in the atmosphere to create the global warming agent known as ozone. So I don't want to get too far into that, but can you imagine the ocean filters and cleanse our air? Life itself is extremely complicated and sophisticated. If you look at our oceans, there are trillions of tons of trash, garbage, waste that we put in there. So, from this article, I did not know. I love to learn. And of course, this is a simplistic version because we just scratched the surface on things on this nature. So again, it says the ocean acts as a air filter at nighttime. People, brothers and sisters of life, I hope we can understand that the things we do to ourselves internally is pretty much the same things we do to the earth because we distort the water inside of us. And if you look at our behaviors that we produce or that we live every day, the trash that we throw out, we get the beautiful TV and we take the 100,000 inch screen TV from the box and we throw it into the trash. While we're watching this 100,000 inch screen TV, we might be watching sports, or we might be watching a horror film, or we might be watching something that agitates the calmness of the waters inside your being or your heart. So, simultaneously, while we are distorting the harmony inside of the waters, distorting the harmony or disrupting the harmony inside of the waters in our being, we are distorting the waters on the earth. So if I am smoking marijuana, what's it called? Marijuana? Herb, or what is smoking skunk? The skunk is going into my lungs, mingling and polluting the waters inside of my lungs. That box or that plastic is in the ocean and is distorting the frequency or the ability to cleanse the pollutants in the atmosphere. So while I'm polluting myself watching this 100,000 screen TV and watching sports, at the same time, when our lungs are trying to filter out pollutants, the garbage and waste that we put into ocean, the water is trying to filter and clean out the pollutants in the air. So they say as above, so below. And I would say as above, so below and underneath, because we're on top of the earth. So we are polluting air above, life above. We are polluting ourselves, the air and life force from within our body, and we're polluting the earth surface and the water, the oceans of the earth. This discovery is, of course, is very interesting because I am so sorry. But when I speak, I listen to myself at the same time. And that is why sometimes I do not fully express my points because, as I said prior, I train myself to have multiple thoughts going at the same time. So forgive me if I'm not clear. But looking at this development just now, literally in real time, the level of pollutants. what is what is cancer? What is this disease? Because I didn't know that the ocean is a filter for the air. I mean, and then the sun and the reactions, and then the things that our body. I mean, I am sorry, but we are very abusive to all
Yeah.
things, even into our spiritual recollection of our well-being while we exist on earth. Thank you, brother Mike.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I was miking in because this is definitely a synergistic relay conversation type of build. Usually we grant each other the reference in muting our microphone as another person speaks, but this has to be a communicative conversation. There's so many revelations that are happening here that I also did not know that at nighttime the ocean had that particular occupation. I did not know that
And
in
brother
my
Mike,
own
and
research.
think
Yes,
about this. I think the spinal or the water in our cerebral and our spinal cord cleanse itself at night as well. A
it
lot of things
does.
goes on at night.
That's correct.
Mm.
So, yes, as above, so below and under, as within, so without. It is happening simultaneously. Simultaneously. Perception also needs to be added into this discussion because Brother Eli spoke of the 100,000 inch television, which we would think of actually as a movie screen. A little bit of a childlike joy, I remember, is being able to grab the moon. What do I mean by that? When you could look at the moon and take your thumb and index finger and pretend as if you are holding the moon by your means of perception, it would make you appear to be a giant holding that moon, or the moon being as small as being able to fit within these two fingers. The same thing happens with all matters of perception of the eyes, which are how much percent of water in air? Almost completely water in air. Now, that said, why is it important in any means to have a 100,000 inch color television if they give you regulations as to how far away you need to stand from it to perceive the entire picture? And that by our law of perception and our scientific law of our eyes, how it perceives distance and dimension, this
Good point.
is the same size as you standing far away from a movie screen, as you are standing or seated inches away from the same mechanisms we are using right now, our laptops, our computers. So the answer is that means of access has nothing to do with our sight. It has everything to do with the perception of access, and not how clear the screen is, not what we are watching, but the idea that it is a certain size. When same perception, if we were to take all 200 plus million of our blood cells and place them side by side, it would completely go about the diameter of the entire planet multiple times. We are infinitely large and infinitely small. And that perception has to, at one point, pose as a grand responsibility of what is around us. It is much bigger than us, but it is much smaller within us.
Brother Mike, I
Yes.
remember I remember I think I used a camera to zoom in into the moon. Now, I don't
Mhm.
I remember I was on the earth and it was daytime. And I remember zooming in while on earth in the daytime. When I was zooming in, the image, the perception, I saw the blue skies and I saw light.
Mhm.
But the more I zoomed in, the light that I was looking at while looking into the camera turned black. The
Mhm.
closer I got to the moon, and I was like,
Yes.
wait a minute. Am I moving while I'm zooming in on Earth with this camera? Because you would think that everything will remain light like in the daytime.
Exactly.
So I was
Exactly.
curious why. Like I said, I need to check into that again, but I do remember that. And I was curious about that from, from the perception of how we perceive things while on earth. Yes, sir. That
Absolutely.
pricked my mind.
Yes. So that perception is much the same way as we can have smudge marks upon our focals. And then the closer that we place them to us, we no longer see the scratches. We no longer see the smudge marks. It is the exact same law, the exact same principle of of perception and deception. And that is the reason why, if we're speaking about as within and so without, so many of those who we consider wise take the high ground. They are in the mountains. They watch from a bird's eye view of how the world goes in and out of itself. When we learn of the universe, we are actually learning about our own bodies. We are made of stars. And we talk about above, below, and under. all we would need to do, and this is a combination of water and air in this study, if we were to dive deep into our own oceans, beyond the light of the shallow part of what we can see with our human eye, we would see all new worlds down there. There are still species of aquatic life that have no name and have barely been discovered. There is a reason why there is so many approaches towards adding density to our perception so that we may think in a shallow approach towards all things. How big something is, how heavy something is. The idea of currency. There is a poetic metaphor of currency that happens within and outside of us. Air is also a currency. Me speaking is a currency. And the trade-off is I am getting paid attention. That is how knowledge is ascertained. Wisdom is ascertained from the call to action and finding it for ourselves. If these findings of knowledge are correct within our own individual lives or within us as a collective, deeper wisdom is knowing that we do not have to jump off of the cliff to know that we would die. That is how we learn from other people. All of it, if not for air, could not happen, for there would be no aspiration, there would be no expiration, because there would be no inspiration either. When we speak about inspirational speakers, we are actually talking about the air they breathe and how they use that to the advantage of creating an instrument that makes a certain combination of sounds that we calculate with our complicated splendor of our bodies into information. So it is highly important that air be given its due, that time and attention be based.
No, you just froze for a second again, brother.
It is definitely trying us, but we will persevere. But in all fairness, that burning bush that we speak of, these obstacles that we speak of, we welcome them. I know that I do. To show and prove that our intention does not end in inspiration, does not end in motivation, but it is indeed a discipline. Inspiration is temporary. It is fun to be inspired. The first breath can be thought of as inspiration and expiration, breathing in and out. But the tireless effort of our bodies doing this 17,000 times a day, 365 days, a Gregorian year, 366 on a leap year, for the duration of the many years that we exist on this planet. It is a mathematical equation that I would only allow the congregation and those who are listening here to calculate for themselves. But it's a tireless effort. that discipline is something that would not exist without that inspiration. I hope that our inspirations, that our discipline inspires you to that better wisdom and understanding of not only the world around you, but yourselves. At least it is my hope.
That is my hope as well. Brothers and sisters, I would just like to add in some other things.
Yes, please.
And I just hope and pray during these times, it is something that to be what we consider the burning bush. If you can remember the story of the burning bush was in the desert. Brother Mike, I think I hear like some background sound from you.
Just a moment.
Yes, sir. If you can remember, the burning bush was in the desert. And according to some versions, and the version that I like, it was a dry bush. So can you imagine a dry bush with branches with no leaves on it, burning but is not consumed? To me, that explains the power of intention. When you are on your dean, as some will say, or when you are on your purpose, it it is almost a focus that is extremely powerful. I remember when I looked at the movie called Matrix and I discovered that slow motion effect. When you play the video game Matrix, they call that focus. And if you look at the focus and purpose of all life, when you're truly focused on something, it is known to us that humans can basically um, can divert all types of things that would not be diverted if we were not focused on one particular thing. I remember situations when you had monks, and even let's just use this basic story. You have two drivers. One driver just came from a party. The other driver was at the same party, but they were drunk. When both of them were on the freeway, and they may have been part of the same accident. Now, for some reason, the one who was drunk would not be affected like the one who wasn't drunk. The one who wasn't drunk had the opportunity to focus on its body, and it noticed that the body was severed in half. So it panicked. It had a reaction because of that focus. While the other one was just so drunk, he probably was just thinking about the girl at the party, not really paying attention to his body being severed, half of his body being severed. Even when you look at other aspects of focus and purpose, our minds are capable of many things, even dreaming. All things are possible if you're focused and you're consistent. And again, you have to forgive me because my mind goes so fast in so many directions, and I visualize these things while I'm speaking. Now, maybe if I had four heads going in more directions, like on the movie Matrix, I can express myself fully, or I can truly interpret for you guys what my mind is revealing to me, but my unconscious mind is revealing to my conscious mind. So I'm not going to go too far into that. So I hope and pray that you guys are truly blessed and are truly happy about your existence. And I will just read again because I love to reiterate things, just like existence itself. You have to ask the question: the consciousness of existence is infinite. We can have a new reality every second of our waking life. Like Brother Michael like to say, however, it is a reason when we open our eyes, we see the same neighborhood, we see the same body for the most part after, aging. We go outside, we see the cars, we see the weather, we see consistency in existence. I I would say from our perception, we see consistency. So that is why I am so consistent on consistency, because that is a good way to learn something, a good way to memorize something. So I will go again into a life-centered life to keep us on board. A life-centered life is a way of living that is conscious thought and practice focus on the healthy growth and development of all living things. A life-centered life is not a religion, is not a science, is not a social creed, and has no holy books. All existence is one being, one nature, one essence, one spirit. We have spoke about the oneness of the body when it concerns air. Like the ocean cleanses the air, and also the air we inhale cleanses the body. So we saw the connectedness between us physically as individuals, and at the same time, the effects that we have on this earth with our ignorance and our destructive behavior. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. Nothing exists individual. And we prove that today. And you guys can do your part and investigate how water cleanses your body while you're sleeping, and how water, the ocean, cleanses the air at night. Everything is dependent on something else. We exist because everything else exists. You have to ask this question. Look at the complexities of our reality. We can fly through the empty space, and that empty space have the ability to hold planets and hold stars. Think about that once again. When you see a star, it is being held up by something that we can fly through. So the complexities of air, or what we perceive as our perceptions, are interconnected, because we can fly an airplane through our air while the consciousness of existence can fly stars and galaxies, which are physical, through the unknown substances that we can fly through with our ships. All existence is one unified whole. There is unity among all things. All life sustains life. Everything that exists is sustenance for something else. Let's look at defecation, and I'm going to stop here. Let's look at defecation. When I consume something, it goes through my system. And the last aspect of that consumption, I basically poop it out. That same substance will go into the earth, right? It will go into the earth. That poop will be dissolved in the soil. Remember, my defecation is my final product from me. That poop will be absorbed by the soil. Now you have a tree. The tree will consume my poop, which means the final product, and then it will produce things like apples, which is its final product. So I will reach up into the tree and grab the apple, which is the tree's poop, and consume it to give me nutrients. So it's a cycle. We exist because everything else exists. So please, brothers and sisters, consider that you are a divine being. Every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It is easier to destroy something than to build it. So please be gentle to your mind, body, and spirit. Please be gentle to this earth because we all exist as one unified whole. When you're watching your TV and throwing away trash, that trash is being consumed by something that does not need it. And that's why maybe on a subconscious level, you consume drugs and alcohol and things because you are harming something that is a part of you. So if you are throwing sewages and filth in water in the ocean, since we're a one unified whole, something says, ooh, I feel like getting some vodka to drink. And you poison your system. Or it's just many things, brothers and sisters. So thank you for your time. We are over an hour. I hope and pray that you enjoy your week. And if there were anything that were expressed today that was offensive, excuse me, please forgive us because we are not here to offend no one. Blessings.
Next week, we must continue this conversation about air, about perception, about focus. There is so much to discuss. But until next week, when we speak about air, let us speak about how we are this light. For the candle cannot complain against the darkness and the harshness. It instead emits itself, then admits to itself that it is everything that it needed. It is the light. And we are that light. To prove that, we will not blow this candle away from us. We will instead take it in, the warmth that it is, the light that it has fought to be, so that we can pass that light on to other people. We take it in. And we show and prove that we are not harmed. Multitudes magnified blessings be upon all that are here today. Peace. Blessings.